TikTok. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Just give me a second. We're gonna get ready to get started. Hopefully, you all had some great rest. I kind of sort of did. My son decided he needed to be up under dad all night, so tried to recover a little bit. Praise y'all for him. Getting Facebook set up, and then we're gonna jump right into this. If y'all can be patient, I promise it's gonna be worth the wait. I see we got a nice little number that crept on today already. Praise y'all. Just give me a second if y'all can be a little patient with me. I'm literally just typing in the theme for today so that the Facebook family would see what they need to on the recording. And then we're going to go in. This is part 17, which is amazing that we've even gone through all these parts. I'm going to talk about a man's work. Even in creation, a man's work pops up. Then we're going to talk about how important that is. Okay. All right. I think we're great to go. I think we're all right. We can go ahead and get started. All righty. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer. And it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your patience as we got set up here. Hopefully, some of you will be ready to bounce over to the podcast with us in a few, as we have Minister Sonia taking over for the month of September on there. So we're excited about that. And hopefully, you guys are ready to go over there as well soon. Shabbat shalom to everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Excited to come before you all again. Thank you to everybody on all the different platforms, whether it be TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, later on even the podcast. Those who are watching this or listening to this live or listening to this later on, we appreciate you. As always, we give all honor and praise to the Most High. Yahweh Elohim, we give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And prayerfully, you will support her and her support of the community to make sure that her business, which is to make sure that your health is her business, can in fact bloom and flourish. Thank you so much. Don't forget, today we have a lot on our radar, on our itinerary. If you're part of the family, the organization, we got this. Right after this, we got the podcast at 10. Right after the podcast at 10, we have our right after the podcast at 10, we're going to do a SOC meeting where it's going to be a little lighthearted and everything at 11. And then at 5, if you're a minister in training, we look forward to trying to talk to everybody then. I'm sorry, the tincture of the month for September is I Am Resting. All right, it has passion flower, lavender, mugwort, and wild lettuce, stuff that she's harvested, that she's went out and forested for herself. So very fresh, very real, very much so necessary. Let's go ahead and get ready to dig in now. How you guys doing? How you doing, Sister Niece? How you doing, Sister Sharice? I see you guys. How are we doing over here? Give me a second. Excellent. How you guys doing? Adam Jones, thanks for being part of the community. Big Brother Thomas, Brother Clem, Sister Shima, Sister Betty, Dawn Pooby, sorry, how's everybody doing? I'm trying to catch as many names as I can. Jess Banks, Michelle, Minister Tamara, thanks for being part of the community. Michael Woods, Sister Beverly, everybody. All righty. Is it Grand rising to you. Hello to you. I'm not sure. Holly Joy Johnson. Hello, Pear. How you doing? Sister Barbara. Anastasia, I believe is how you pronounce it. I don't know. How you doing? Miles Taylor. If I miss your name, charge it to my head and not to my heart. Of course, once again, hello, babe. How you doing? My wife, the Honorable Alma. Check her out at Bloom and Flourish. Hey, it's boiling. Yo, how you doing? Thanks for being part of the community. Minister Select Maria, appreciate you. How you doing, Stoney? Thanks for being part of the community. I'm probably going to miss some names, but forgive me. There's a lot of us that came on here. Corny, to everybody. Sorry. It's trying to make me skip past your names and stuff. I'm trying to say hello and greetings. Hello. Hey, Shalom. I don't know. It's TH3, I guess. Oh, the Kayla. Is it Kayla Renee? Is it? You doing well? Thank you. We're doing well as well. Is it Jay? I'm not sure how to pronounce that one. You just came up there, your last person. Jay, AJ. Hello, how you doing? Oh, I'm missing Link because I'm a black person with a beard and I wear my hair naturally. Whether you're black or white, you might want to rethink that. But thank you for being on, though. Hopefully you got better than that. But appreciate y'all. So let's go ahead and get into this. Let's get into this word. Cole, how you doing? Everybody, once again, on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, whether you're joining us live or not, to the moderators, ministerial staff, everybody, we appreciate you. Let's get this in. All righty, I'm excited. Today will be a little shorter because we're getting ready to go into our podcast a little later. But, quick review. When I say quick review, I mean quick review, right? We're not going to stick to this stuff. We've been talking about this stuff. This is part 17 of a 16, or is part 17 of the series. We literally yesterday finished up a 4-part thing on Hakwaya, right? The what people call the firmament, but Hakwaya, we just talked about that for 4 days straight. What is the belief system and what's the structure of that? If you change something in the origin, right? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. So if you change an origin of something, you have to change everything else, right? So we talked about that. We even talked about that if you're going to change, Genesis 1-4, then guess what else you're going to have to change? You're going to have to change Revelation 1-4, right? This is a cultural perspective, by the way. We laid ground rules for this. This is why this is a series. If you want to go listen to the ground rules, we probably got like on average about 2.5 to 3 hours per stuff on this series in particular. And we've been doing this for now 17 days straight. So there's a lot of information. There's a lot of different things. Today, especially since we have to be shorter, I probably will not be able to go through everything just on today. Just realize that there's a lot to it. Some of the stuff that you guys are going to automatically assume or say, I promise you that we're in agreement on some of it. But we talked about the Laquai. We talked about different things today, leading up to today. We made it a point to even get into some things dealing with the book of Enoch. To talk about the Watchers. Some people had questions about that, so we discussed that. We made it a point to talk about the Watchers and to show what was going on and to see the correlation. We even went to make sure that we talked about the formation of things. Science and the Bible actually agree on certain things as far as the earth being together. What did it actually look like? We even showed you that, before you get into doubt and all these different things and you say, I don't believe this, I don't agree with this, et cetera, et cetera. Well, guess what? Like, if you believed in this, you believe in a lie anyways, right? That the projection map, but we even showed this false map and this false sense of continents. We even showed how even you can see these things come together, which we'll talk about a little bit today, right? So we're kind of focusing on Barashat bits, or what you might call Genesis chapter 2. We even talked about the fact you got to be careful about these imprecations, just like the Watchers did. They made an agreement and they came together and they said, hey, we know that what we've been doing or what we're about to go into is wrong, which a lot of us are still doing. We know that we've been in a system that lies to us. We know that we're in a system that doesn't make sense. We know that this stuff isn't really what it's supposed to be, right? But at the end of the day, we keep on keeping on. We keep on saying, well, that's all that I know. We'll keep on keeping on. There was a person I talked to a long time ago. I remember it really messed with me, where the person was like, I was showing them stuff and I was saying, well, this doesn't make sense and that doesn't make sense. Be cursing people and that, this and that. And the person was like, well, I mean, until somebody gives me something, else or different, why should I go ahead and give up what I know is not working? Which it kind of hurts, but then again, it's true, right? If nobody's giving us an alternative. So that's why we even talked about yesterday, right? We made it a point to even show you guys about Copernicus, right? And to talk about Copernicus and how Copernicus legit just, changed a whole bunch of stuff, and he changed it for different reasons than what we think. And we focused on our sisters last night. So today is actually going to focus on our brothers, just out of the natural progression of things already. So we want to go to this place that we call Adon, right? Or Eden, but we want to show how we get there. How you doing, Dennis, by the way? How you doing, Sister Barbara? If I missed your name when I was going through that, please forgive me. Right? So we wanted to talk about these different things. How you doing, Mac? How you doing, Minister Select Shantae? Shalonda, welcome as always. Thank you so much. Mayhew, Will Wave, thanks for being part of the community. Yes. I am on my mother's side. I am definitely have a lot of Ghanaian in me, and support that part of my culture vigorously. I'm so yes. And how you doing, Sister Shima? If I didn't say sorry, I think I did. Thank you for the love, by the way. Was this sorry? But what is going on? This thing's making me skip around. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I'm late. You guys discuss the firmament's are real. Well, we don't believe in firmament. Firmament is not the same culture, no, is it the same belief system? But Hakwai, yes, it's something that we do believe in. And like I said, this is a 17-part series, right? We talked about protons and electrons yesterday, and talked about the fact that neutrons and neutrinos are in fact even a theory, right? We talked about that yesterday, and we showed out how outlined that, and we outlined that nobody's actually ever seen a neutrino or a neutron. So once again, these are all things. If you want to listen to recordings, you can literally yesterday's recording. You can go to the YouTube channel, hashtag FindKofi, hashtag FindKofi, right? Hey, how you doing, Sister Rhonda? How you doing, Yashla? Right. So you can literally go to the YouTube channel. If you're on TikTok, you can even just simply go to where it says, you can go to our main YouTube channel, and you can just click on it. You click on where it says, what is it? I'm sorry, forgive me. Oh yeah, you can go to where it says link tree. Click on the link tree. Click on the YouTube channel. Go there. Look up our playlist on the YouTube channel. By the way, if you like what you see, why don't you like, share, subscribe, right? But click on and hit the notification tab, so when we come up with videos on there, you get a notification, right? And you can get more information. You can even go to and be part of the Patreon kingdom, be part of the Patreon fam, and get some of this information and get some of these pictures and things that we're using, that we're going to load up for you guys to be able to see for yourself, so you can use them to study to see if what we're saying is true or not, right? And don't forget, October 6th, my born day is coming up. Besides the fact that we're supposed to be doing this kind of born day celebration, also too, starting on that day, my present for you is that we're going to start something where we're going to have a different tier again, and we're going to try that. And this time it'll just be one. For right now, it'll just be 2 tiers. Everybody will still get the same thing we're getting, but it's people with a specific tier. Once a week, you're going to get something where I just do a brain dump on the situation. I will just pick, or you guys can even pick a situation for me, and we'll just, everything that I have in it, I'm going to try my best to just give everything I can, even if it's doubts, fears, concerns, questions, whatever, and just throw it out there, right? So that'll be something for you guys to do, but you can get, and you can always get extra. How you doing, Sister Nakia? So in all these things that we're talking about today, we're going to talk about getting into some of some more of creation. We talked about the generation, right? And now there's the generations, right? Some of you know what we're talking about because we set ground rules already on this. So some people might be like, what are you talking about? The generations, what's the difference? We have that. Once again, that's one of the things we have on the YouTube channel, right? You can look up, you can even see in a playlist that we have there called Having Been Led as We Believe, right? But in this generation or generations, we want to make sure that we give you guys a little something, right? We want to show you a little something, right? So in these generations, right, it's different than the generation. There was a generation in which the heaven and earth were made. Then there are generations, right? There are generations. So there's generations. So when we're talking about generations, what are we talking about? We're talking about, I'm having a problem with my MacBook, sorry. Okay. So we're going to go to the generations now. And we want to talk about something specific because now it talks about in the generations, we've talked that there's in the generations, things look different. And once again, it's often interesting how the Bible, science, agnostics, atheists, different people, different beliefs clown on the Bible, but we agree on a lot of the same principles, a lot of the same origins. They just have faith in different things. So they have faith that things evolved. We have faith that things were created. They have faith that they say, oh, well, you guys believe that everything was made in 7 days. First of all, we don't. We actually believe that everything was made in 6 days, but a day is a period of time in our culture. Right? Yom is not the same as what you do. This is why this is all cultural, right? So we have people talking about all these different things. So we have more agreement than we don't. That's why we talked about those 6 Yoms, right? Yom Aleph, you saw that there was something that came from nothing. But really, in science, they have to say something came from nothing. For us, we say something came from someone who created the universe. What is a universe? A universe is a single spoken sentence, right? So somebody has to speak a sentence into existence for you to agree in it. This is why we were telling people yesterday, be careful of your word usage, right? If you don't believe, I'm having issues for some reason. Okay. If you don't believe in the universe, or you don't believe in what we say happened as far as somebody had to speak the universe into existence, you shouldn't use the word universe, because the word universe literally means a spoken sentence or a single spoken sentence, right? So if it's a single spoken sentence that you're living in, somebody had to speak it. The problem is, though, is that you obey multiverses more than the universe. You believe what other people have spoken who were created out of what was spoken, rather than looking at the origin of what was spoken. And this is why we have a problem. How you doing, Sir Stephen? Welcome. Right. So we're talking. So a lot of people don't even realize we kind of agree on certain things. We agree that there was something and then there became nothing. We don't agree that it was a big bang and then there was a void in space, and that there was a vacuum and stuff was floating all the way through space as there was a void, and yet things that floated and can't stop floating somehow, some way came together. Right? We don't believe that, but we do believe that there was enlightenment that was spoken upon. That let there be enlightenment. That's what that word light there actually translates to better, right? And then we believe on the second day that there had to be a separation of waters from the waters, right? There had to be a place where waters could be in one place and waters could be in another, which gives you the authority that we're going to talk a little bit about today, right? And we believed in Yom Gimal, the third period of time, that the earth, just like now, where volcanoes erupt underneath and then they cool down, which, by the way, if you caught it, without forming void, gas, water, liquid, earth coming up, becoming solid, a slowing down of things, right? Gas, liquid, solid. These are principles that we all agree on. We could speak about we're wrestling against flesh and blood and not against what? The war is not with each other. The war is against the principalities. Let us discuss the origin of things, right? So we agree so far, right? We agree that seed had to develop in this in this slowed down volcanic reaction that now we call the earth, right? We agree that after that, right, that the seed, just like today, seeds can be in the ground and remain dormant up until it's time for them to grow. Well, this seed remained dormant until it was time for it to grow, and there had to be a development of the sun and the moon and the stars, not only to make sure that things could grow and that chlorophyll could be fed correctly, but also to make sure that make sure that there were seasons that were put in place. We agree on that. We agree that after that, there has to be something that comes into position. Where after the seed has to be laid down in the ground and there has to be sunlight and stuff, then there was water around, right? But then we also believe that there had to be something to breathe into these things so that there could be carbon dioxide and oxygen being able to be exchanged, right? So you have fish of the sea. You have even what we call Tanayan, or what people call Tinian, or sea monsters, or awesome lizards, or dinosaurs. That's what a dinosaur is an awesome lizard. It's called a terrible lizard, but the word terrible just means awesome, right? And then from there on the sixth period of time, we believe that there was cattle, when we believe that there was man and even mankind, right, that was created on the sixth period of time. And then Yahweh rested, and we talked about rest. Rest does not mean what people think it means. Rest means what? Rest means that he rested, or he was inside of that which he created, right? So when you rest, you still can work. When you rest, you cannot toil. Toil is what y'all do when y'all do your 9 to 5. Resting, you can do whether you're in a bed. Resting, you can do whether you're in your call. Resting, you can do if you went out yesterday, you were a blessing to somebody on the first Friday of the month. Resting is different than toiling. Okay? All right. So now we get through all those things and we figure that now we gone through the generation of the heaven and the earth. But here now we're going into the generations, right? We dealt with the generation of the heaven and the earth, but now we're going into the generations of the heaven and the earth. So the generation of the creation, boom. Now we're moving into the generations, and we're dealing with people in the generations. We dealt with the generation, right? Read your Bible, it'll bless you. People, oh, this and that, we doubt this and that or whatever. No, generation here. Now we're into the generations. We're gone from Elohim. Elohim said. That's why in your Bibles, if you're still into Germanic, words and Germanic belief system, you're still in even Greco-Roman belief system, you're still dealing with in Genesis 1 all the way to Genesis chapter 2, verse 3. And God said, and God said, and God said, and God said, which is Elohim, right? But then we get to Genesis chapter 2, verse 4 on, it's going to start saying the Lord God, the Lord God, the Lord God, the Lord God, right? Which is Yahweh Elohim. So Yahweh Elohim did this. Yahweh Elohim, right? So Elohim, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, if you know how to write it out, right? Aleph, Father, Lamed, the great shepherd, who is who? The Son, right? Che, the Holy Spirit, Yod, all three leading us through their hand, right? What? Mem, and the water, the blood, and the spirit. We've been dealing with what? Stuff out of the water. Water also represents spirit, but water, the blood, right? You got a bloodline that's going to start popping up. They don't talk about any other bloodline up until we get here, right? Why? Because the water, the blood, and what? The spirit is attached to a specific man. And even the word man means spirit, right? But this man is different than any other man. So now we're going to get into it, right? So here it says that out of the ground, Yahweh Elohim allowed to grow every tree. So now all these things are in place. All these things are where they're supposed to be, right? And he's allowing the trees to grow, right? And it's pleasant to the sight, right? And it was constitutional. It was valuable for food, right? And the tree of life also was in the midst of the garden. Now I'm going a little ahead of myself. Let's go back some. So let's go around verse 6, right? Verse 5, really. Now, verse 5 tells you another thing that people agree on. They do these movies and they just say, oh, we don't know what we're talking about. But in the movies, they give you the same thing, right? In these movies, they tell you that we are wrong for what we believe in, right? But it says that there was a mist. Now, when you see movies and you see prehistoric movies and stuff, don't they look like this? And they tell you that's a prehistoric way that everything looked like. But you can see this stuff today. This is a picture, right? This is not a painting. This is a picture. You can go out somewhere and see this today, right? My family and I, we just did cross country, right? And when we went cross country and we were on the West Coast, and so when we were in mountains and different things like that, in the mountains, in the Grand Canyon, you look over and you see this today, right? This is what it says happened. Now, the Grand Canyon is an interesting place to even go and talk about just for a hot second, because the Grand Canyon is something that if you know about it, you know that the Grand Canyon is supposed to be an active volcano. A lot of people might not know that. Right? But when you stand there, so you'll see a mist. So you're seeing a combination of day 3, active volcano. You're seeing a combination of what? Of Genesis chapter 2, a mist, right? Why was there, right? You're seeing a combination of these things, but they tell you, oh yeah, this stuff couldn't have happened. This was a specific time. It only had to be, right? That's what they said. Like, this is what the earth looked like. It took billions or millions or whatever of years to be able to make sure that this stuff transitioned. But you see this today. And if you see remnants of this today, could it be possible you're seeing remnants of it today because this is something that could happen in a shorter period of time? Now, I don't know how long the periods of time are that it took for the heaven and earth to be created. That's why we said it's a period of time. These 6 days that it's created in, the word day means yom. So I'm not 100% sure how long the yom was. I wasn't there. There's other people who are trying to tell you they know how long it took. How you doing, Omex? And thanks for being part of the community, big dog. So there's a lot of people that are saying, yeah, we know exactly what this looked like. We know exactly what it was. We know exactly what it was. But they don't know. But when the Bible says it, and then we can show you and confirm, like, yeah, this stuff still happens today. When stuff is created, it still happens today. There's still periods of time to where this happens in the forest, right? And they say, oh, no, this prehistoric stuff only. No. Like, we see this today. We see this today. We see a mist today. There's no argument on our end that there can be a mist. We see this today, right? You can be canoeing or in your little boat going fishing or whatever, and you'll see mist, right? Mist that covers the ground. And what does the mist do? The mist, it gives water. There are places where it doesn't rain that often, but still has a lot of mist. Interesting. Now, it's important to catch this, right? And thank you, moderators on YouTube. Appreciate you, right? I didn't catch that. But there's a mist, right? There's a mist that grows up, that comes up from it. A mist that comes up from what? From the ground. Now, why did the mist come up from the ground? It tells us that the mist came up from the ground because even though it tells us that there's man that's been created, it tells us specifically that there's no man in particular to till the ground or that has been given the responsibility of what? Of being over the ground. Now, interestingly enough, there's man that's mentioned in the generation, but then it still says there's man in the generation and Badashet Aleph for Genesis chapter 1, it says that this man has dominion, but at the same and dominion over the earth. But at the same time, there's nobody specifically who what is supposed to till the ground. Did y'all catch that? Right? So in other words, we haven't experienced this, and we won't experience it really to the time of Noah, but we haven't experienced something called rain. Right? We have not experienced something called rain. You said that the Bible, well, first of all, the Bible was written before there was a such word as God. So you're coming with the wrong culture and the wrong outlook, number one. Secondly, I don't see the contradiction. I think you probably just don't know how to read it, and you don't understand the language of it. You probably read a version like many people have, and a lot of people's versions give you a version. But what's the contradiction? I'm not going to stay too long on that because today we have to go. But I don't believe in Elohim. I mean, I don't believe in God. I believe in Elohim. God is a Germanic deity, right? So that's why I don't really do God. I don't really say good morning. I don't really say good speed, God spelled, or what you call gospel, right? I don't really do those things because that's somebody else's culture. Just like we don't say firmament, we say Hakwaya, because firmament is a Greek god born of Gaia. I don't worship Greek gods. If they weren't originally written in my Bible anyways, I probably shouldn't hold on to them. So we're going back to the principle, the principality. We're going back to the origin. So you'd have to take that up with somebody else who doesn't know the culture. You said that in the Bible it says that Ahijah took Jerusalem at 22 and at 42. Yeah, that's a common misconception, first of all, to where people aren't using the right thing, to where people are using. Do you know the difference between? I don't know. I have to ask you a question. Do you know the difference between lamed and the difference between none? Actually, I'm sorry. Did I say that right? Hold on. Let me get myself together. I'm sorry. Do you know the difference between kaf? Did you know the difference between kaf and none? Because if you don't know the difference between kaf and none, or I'm sorry, kaf and mem rather, then it's going to be a hard thing to even discuss. You're talking about something that's in English. Hey. To talk to you. My wife can handle her own, but my wife is bloom and flourish, and I suggest to you, if you would like to have a conversation, I don't do well when people try to address my wife, and you haven't even said hello to me, and let alone say hello to her. But once again, do you know the difference between kaf and mem? No, they're not just letters. They're not just letters. They are characters, and those characters have numbers attached. Right? Also, bit is another missing part of the ingredient. I'm just talking nonsense. No, I'm not. You don't know what the culture is. I teach Hebrew characters. Like, I have a university I started, and I teach classes in it, and I teach Hebrew characters. Hebrew characters are not just letters. First of all, they're not letters. They're characters. They're pictographs more so than letters. So make sure you first of all get the culture correct. See, this is why we're saying, see, people are trying to do stuff, but they don't have a right to till the ground. Right? They don't have a right to till the ground. You don't know what you're talking about on that. If you just want to be honest, right? If you're going to be just outright disrespectful, I'm not being disrespectful, but I'm just going to go ahead and be. You're going to allow me to be honest with you, right? Like, you don't know the difference. You're talking about something you don't know. You don't know the difference between kaf, at mem. So, and then bet needs to be added to both. It needs to be kaf bet and mem bet, right? Which mean two different things, but at the same time, also too, when you're talking about taking, you have to be able to be there. And that's number one. Number two, which version of the Bible you're talking about? Because in the original versions, that was not a problem. So you're talking about somebody else's version later on, but you're trying to tell me about something you don't comprehend, right? Kaf bet and mem bet are not what you think that they mean. Somebody came by and tried to readjust it. right? To try and make it make sense in their culture. So I can't really have a conversation with you just being honest with you, right? I can't have a conversation with you on it because you since you automatically went to a place of saying how basically I'm unschooled, unlearned, and don't know anything, even though I teach this and live this every day. Like you don't live by it. You don't ever say in your regular life, you don't be sitting there saying, oh yeah, I need to go ahead and make sure that I get none of these. See, none of these to you is zero. None of these to me means 50, right? So it is what it is. Like if it's just going to be a thing of disrespect, then there it is, right? But you said like why come and hate? Literally, yeah, it's weird. Like and hate. I don't even mind if you hate based upon principles. Once again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Y'all see this? How you doing, William Talan? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. So you don't want to talk about the origin, but you just want to talk about what you want to make it to be. I can't really have that conversation because it has an origin to it. King Suave, I'm where I need to be. I promise you that you're going to get what's necessary if you just hang in there. 30 seconds more isn't going to tear you up. Right? Right? But thank you, Bella. Appreciate it. So, or I'm sorry, is it Bella Oldham? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but thanks for being on with us. So let's go ahead and get back into this. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. So there's no rain coming because there's a mist to the ground, but also it makes an interesting conversation. It makes an interesting suggestion to you. It tells you that there's no rain also because there was not a specific man to till the ground. Now we talked about that. Somebody saying, why is he saying specific man? We have that covered in this series. This is part 17. All right. But there is no specific man to till the ground. Because if y'all think we arguing now, y'all already know if we go back into why I'm saying there's a specific man, we're going to be here all day and we don't have that time because we got to make sure that Minister Sonia, who's on, welcome, we got to make sure that she's on time, right? And we're there to support her on time. So we will do so. Okay. But so it's very interesting because we start seeing the value of man, which is something in society that people say there's no value in. Because when you're dealing with gender, or what is also known originally as janka, right? When you're dealing with gender or the style that's attached to male and female in different cultures, right? In this culture, it doesn't matter about males or females, and males masculinity is something that's under attack quite often. Now I'm not saying there's no such thing as misogyny, right? But there is a such thing as misandry as well, and there's an attack on our fathers. There's an attack on our men. There's attack on leadership that looks like men. Matter of fact, the Bible tells us that if you're going to defeat a culture, if you're going to defeat a people, what do? You kill anything that pisseth against the wall. If it can stand up and pee, you probably want to be against it, because that's going to be this one who what causes security. Since I didn't acknowledge and take, well, I mean, okay, fine. I'm not the Most High, and I can't read all the questions at the same time. So if you feel like I got to stop everything to just acknowledge your question, have a great time, and charge it to my head and not to my heart. Just because I made a human mistake doesn't mean that I don't have love for you. But thank you for being on. So and all these different things, right? And you can see even in that, the principality people are coming on is guilt. It's gaslighting. It's I'm going to make you feel bad about self, and I'm going to even do it in a nice way. It's not about all that, right? It's about the truth, right? Let's get into this truth, right? So we're seeing already the importance of man. We're going to finish off tomorrow. We'll actually finish the series off tomorrow, right? And then people can go ahead and make holistic, thought process off of a holistic series, right? But I want you to see that in this, right, that we're going to be focused on how important a man is, right? You're going to see how important a man is. Hello, Roxy. You said Rudy's feathers are ruffled bright and early. Yep, exactly, right? Ruffled bright and early. So we praise y'all for it. Thank you, guys. Continue to give whatever it is, right? So it says there's no rain because there is no specific man that's been tasked with governance of what? Specific growth. So there's man that has dominion over the earth, but there is no specific man that has been given a task, what? To have governance over a specific part of the earth, as far as the growth of the earth. See, a lot of people want to be over the earth, but we don't want to have, we don't want to make sure we have dominion over the growth of the earth. No, when I say man, first of all, the word man that we're referring to actually also refers to spirit, number one. So you can be a male man or a female man. But when I'm talking about man as far as the male, um, I don't believe in a toxic man. Well, I believe that there can be a toxic man. I don't believe in toxic masculinity, and this is why I say it. Right? It's a oxymoron almost, or not even an oxymoron. That's a bad way of saying it, but hopefully you'll comprehend why I'm saying this. Got to be cognitive dissonance to even utter such a word. If there's toxic masculinity, why are you saying it's toxic? Number one, right? Because I'm always about the 5 W's and the H: who, what, where, when, why, and how. When you say it's toxic masculinity, are you saying it's toxic masculinity to hit your wife? Because the reality is real men in my culture do not hit their wives. And if they hit their wives, real men come and remind these little boys that you don't put your hand on your wife. Right? In my culture, it's not toxic masculinity. You just ain't a man. I might have punched many things being upset, but I've never punched a woman. I've never punched a girl because it's not masculine to do so. You said semantics. You guys know it's not semantics because in our culture, real men don't do this stuff. In your culture, you can be a man and hit a woman. If that's the culture you want to go ahead and say it's toxic. No. Like I get what you're trying to say, that there's a lot of stuff and people saying, I'm a man. Just because a little boy calls himself a man, just because a mama says you're the man of the house, it doesn't mean that you're the man of the house. It means you're 5 years old. But just because she calls him a man doesn't mean that he's a man. He doesn't know what a man is. And that's some of the toxic masculinity, that you got little boys who were told that they were men before they were even able to make sure that they could spell. And so now you got grown men who still can't spell, who still act like little boys, and you call them husbands. Just because you call him a husband doesn't mean he's qualified. In our culture, you have to be pre-qualified. In our culture, you got to be pre-qualified. See, that's what I'm saying. We're having a different conversation. We're trying to get over and talk about manhood. We're trying to talk about the garden. We're trying to talk about what we're called to be. And people are arguing over stuff. But once again, it's not semantics. That's why we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. We can't talk about no garden right now. We can't talk about a proper atmosphere. We cannot talk about what the Most High running in his original, because people are arguing over what y'all want a man to be. You want a man to be somebody who has good credit, right? But good credit means you go into debt in this culture. And originally, credit used to mean I pay you in advance and whatever I have left. It means that, hey, that's my credit. But now you say good credit means go into debt and have this credit card and have this and have this and have that. You can own without having any credit, right? But somebody changed the definition on you. Same thing with a man. A man in his origin is somebody that has to be in his work. Allow me to show you. Right? Allow me to show you. See, because you're talking about something. You're saying it's toxic. It's toxic masculinity for a man to raise his voice or whatever. Men don't even necessarily raise their voice. We have louder voices. I have a deeper voice. So if I start speaking loud, it might sound like I'm yelling. I'm not yelling. It might sound like I'm yelling now. I simply am masculine. And as somebody who's masculine, my masculinity shows up. Now, if you say, hey, you're cursing out a woman and calling her out of her name and doing these things like that, then that's not masculine at all. Right? People will say you got too much testosterone. You got too much testosterone. Sure, there can be testosterone imbalances, but the way y'all mean it is not real. Like if a man is aggressive, he's actually got too much. Right? If a man is aggressive, he usually has too much estrogen. Levels are too high. He's gonna be aggressive. So you probably want him to get as much testosterone as possible. Right? Let him watch the game. Why do you want him to watch the game? Right? Why do you want him to watch the game? Why do you want your husband? Why do you want your man to be watching football games, basketball games, etc., and be yelling at the TV? Why do you want that? Because he actually gets the testosterone he needs, and he actually feels more comfortable, and he actually gets aggression out. And they studied men who have watched games, and they've studied men who have exercised, and they've been able to scientifically, because y'all don't believe it unless Eurocentric science agrees with it. So look at the studies, and they'll tell you that men will get the same effect from running as they will from doing. I'm not saying he's going to lose his belly fat. I'm talking about testosterone levels. Yeah, plastic bottles mess up, and it's fake estrogen. It's not even real estrogen, so it messes up men and women. because it tells the body that there's fake estrogen levels there. So we try to drink out as little plastic as possible. It's almost impossible now to not drink out of plastic, but try your best to, right? But you're talking about masculinity. You don't even realize that masculinity is under attack in every single thing. Willie Lynch letter tells us that he reversed our nature, right? Based off of Deuteronomy chapter 28, starting at verse 45, right? They studied you for verse 44 possibly, but they studied you. They studied you and they saw, yeah, like men are supposed to be people who feel respected. And when they feel respected, they give security. When women feel secure, they make sure they respect the one that secures them. And when they feel secure, then men who feel respected, they're supposed to show affection. And when women get affection, then guess what men also need? You'll call it toxic, but it's the way his body is created, because he's supposed to have seed to the day he dies. So guess what men need? Men need a release of the seed. What do you call that? You call that sex. What do we call sex in our culture? Sex is marriage, and marriage is sex. Even in the culture today, if you were to go ahead and get a divorce, or if you had got married and a few months later y'all hadn't had sex, and you want to go before a judge, and you go before the judge, you say we haven't had sex, the judge will annul the marriage, because it's, even in Western society, even in your laws, it still is required. Sex is a requirement. When you go get that license, you don't realize you've been licensed to have sex, because sex is marriage. Marriage is sex. You're paying all the extra money for stuff, but you haven't been licensed to have the ceremony. You've been licensed to have the sex. That's actually what it's doing. Which is why you should be careful how much sex you having and who you having sex with. Because if you ain't licensed, if you're not pre-qualified, if you're not a wife when you're found, if you're not a husband when you're in your work to find a wife, if you haven't been trained from that since birth, if you haven't been pre-qualified by your own community, you're going to have problems. Right? So how are we going to get to Adon or Eden? What are we talking about? Right? What are we talking about? You're talking about a different cultural perspective, and that cultural perspective doesn't work, does it? Because you still having issues. Right? We had somebody last night, everything out of their mouth was everybody's failed, will never be any better, this and that or whatever. But why you keep going by the same culture there? Right? So the reason it hadn't rained yet was because there was no specific man. So Yahweh allowed a mist. Couldn't be any rain because there wasn't a man in his position. He wasn't in his work. Right? Now you're going to realize some things about this man, Adam. Right? There was a mist of the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And it says an Elohim formed from the dust of the ground. Now this is a different word, right? Because remember, he's going to make or create, or Eve, right? But he's going to form man. Form is different than create. If you don't know, right? Form is different than create, right? Form is different than what? Create. We're going to talk more about Eve tomorrow as we wrap this up. But form is different than create. How you doing, Denise? How you doing, Moselle? Shalom to you, right? Form is what? It is different than create. There was no man that was around, right? Because this, in generations, man was made. Male and female made he them, right? He made man. This is a different type of man, but he formed this one. He formed this one in the generations. Y'all see this? He formed him. What does form mean? Form means that he's taking materials, basically there's nothing there, and he's actually forming a concept. He's making a foundation. See, we're going to see the importance of man. And this is why we have a lot of problems with a lot of different things. And people will be upset, frustrated, mad by some of the stuff, but it's real, right? That's why I said I'm not worried about when people talk about toxic masculinity, because you're not talking about masculinity. You're talking about something else. Oh, it's toxic when men out here think that you can't be homosexual, thing like that. Well, why is that toxic? You're saying somebody doesn't want to be masculine. So, okay, I should treat them like a human being. I shouldn't beat them up. I shouldn't curse them out. I shouldn't call them out their name. I shouldn't say they have no right to the kingdom of heaven. I shouldn't say that they can't be better. I shouldn't say that I won't help them with anything. Right? And that's not anything I've ever said or done. But why is it wrong for me to uplift my culture and say that, hey, one of the things that they did was castrate us? Why would they castrate you? Because your manhood, your masculinity is something that's important. About that last night, the weaker vessel. If you realize that what they tell you is weak actually means that it's precious, then you need to make sure you hang on to that. Nobody wants to talk about that fact that there's a whole movement called what you now call the modern movement of feminism was started by Gloria Steinem. She's supposed to be the mother of it, so y'all say, even though there were women in Europe who were supposed to be the mothers of it and stuff like that too as well, right? But it's white, excuse me, social construct white women who had started that. Now, who did Gloria Steinem even work for? Did she work for your people? Who did she work for? Where did she come from? See, because in my culture, our women were out front. They were warriors. Y'all killed Gaddafi and said all these things that he was bad about. Gaddafi's whole personal guard was women. He said he trusted them more than he trusted the men. Yeah, thanks, babe. Gloria Steinem, by her own admission, is a CIA operative. The CIA put Gloria Steinem on the map and feminism on the map. The same CIA y'all say y'all don't trust. And then we'll turn around and say that we need to be feminist. You have men. I'm a feminist. You part of the CIA, bro? That what we doing out here? We putting the CIA before we put our own? This is all outdated knowledge. Keep up with the times and reject religion. Religion just means a legion of people that repetitively do the same thing. If you're into science and you're into a scientific religion, and depends on what culture you are, because different people believe in different sciences. So you missed me with that. But if that's your way of saying hello, grand rising to you. We appreciate you. And thank you so much for just attacking me, because it means that what I'm saying must be some kind of threat, probably just to your way of life. And it'd be easier for you to not have to deal with people such as myself, which you could just easily do by going somewhere else. But Gloria Steinem was a CIA operative. See, I'm telling you something that's a modern truth, and somebody came on here gaslighting with a straw man and said, see, get away from religion. That's not even what I'm talking about right now. You keep up with the times. The time that I'm talking about now has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Right? Gloria Steinem, CIA operative, but you'll say we need to listen to her tell you how there's toxic masculinity. Do you know that Gloria Steinem is one of the big reasons, it was kind of happening already, but one of the big reasons why now black men and black women are against each other? She found a teenage young black girl and got the CIA and other companies to be able to make sure they funded a book for her, and they put it out, and this young 16-year-old black girl basically wrote a book as feeling like Gloria Steinem was now her new mama, and basically went out and wrote a book saying that all men are evil, especially black men. And so now you got black women who have used that same rhetoric to be able to start talking bad about their black men, and black men who use that same rhetoric to start talking bad about themselves and their brothers. That's real. But you would say, based upon that thought process, toxic masculinity. But it's interesting, and all the toxic masculinity stuff and all the feminism stuff, guess what they don't attack? White women, they attack them verbally, possibly, but who are all these white women by the social construct? Who are they all married to? They're still married to white men. Which means that the very person who's over you, because if there's a patriarchy, it's not us. Last time I checked, we're still trying to make sure we get our land together so that we can live together, right? It's not us. We're not over the Republic of the United States of America. It's not us. I'm not over the Republic of England. I'm not over the Republic of China. I'm not over the Republic of Russia. Last time I checked, it's not me who's making the decisions. Last time I checked, we had less than 0.5% of the wealth in 1865 in the diaspora as part of the United States of America. We had less than 0.5%. That's less than 0.5% of the wealth in 1865. Last time I checked, we have less than 0.5% of the wealth in 2022. So you can tell me that I'm toxic all you want. And you can tell me that if I was in a position of leadership, maybe I'd be toxic. And you can also tell me that there's a lot of brothers out here that are not men, that need to be trained to be men, and that are misusing our women and within ourselves, and we need to protect you from that and secure you from that. I'm with you all the way. But when you're going to say that I'm toxic as a masculine, you haven't seen masculinity from my culture. Let's just keep it 100. Yeah, they were warriors, right? Like let's just keep it 100. You haven't seen masculinity in my culture. Right? Because the weapon that was used against us was, hey, we're going to take them out of their nature. Go read the Willie Lynch letters sometimes, and you will discover for yourself, right? Where they literally talk about how they had to reverse our nature, how they killed off men in front of women, how they beat men to the point of death in front of women, and then they said that the women will start to eat out of their hands like the mayor would. They compared us to horses and the breaking of horses. And they said, but you got to be worse to the black folk, even though didn't call us black folk, they called us N-word males and N-word females. But they said you got to be worse to the black folk than you are to the horses. That's what they said. So you can be mad, you can be frustrated, you can be angry, all of them things. I'm just telling you contextual facts. Oh, I'm not talking about necessarily you, Jam Masters. I'm talking about the idea that people have of toxic masculinity. Because somebody was like, "Oh, it's semantics if you're saying that that to beat your wife makes you a toxic masculine person." When I'm like, to beat your wife means you're not masculine. It actually means you have too much estrogen. See, the problem, like we talked about last night, a lot of black men act like white women, and a lot of black women act like white men. We're not even in our right mind. That's why your mama used to tell you. That's why your granddaddy used to say, "Boy, girl, you ain't in your right mind. Whose mind are you in? It's not yours. It's not your culture." They reversed your nature and got you to believe in the hype. So now men, have you ever noticed now that men sound like feminists? Do you know, have you realized that a lot of men, how you doing, aphrodisiac? If I didn't say so already, I think I did. But have you realized and recognized that men now are saying we need our own version of feminism? We acting like women. You got too much estrogen in you, bro. And guess what? We got too many women out here who are sounding like men, right? I don't need you. I don't need no man. I can do it all bad all by myself. You know what? Forget men altogether. Hey, ladies, if your man ain't treating you right, I, as a woman, I'll take care of you. I'll do this. You don't need no man. We can do anything that a man can do. They reverse your nature. You just sound like the opposite sex and don't even think about it. And then when somebody addresses it, you say, "Oh, he's wrong. This is old stuff." No, it's not. It's what's happening right now. Thanks for being part of the community, Cavante. This is what's happening right now. Right. And so when somebody says, "I'm going to be secure in my masculinity," we have a problem with it. When the sister says, "I'm be secure in my femininity," we got a problem with it. Why? Girl, you better make sure, don't have no child at no early age. Make sure that you go. You need to work till you're 40. And if you don't have a child, fine, but you're attacking the patriarchy. Why can't she have her own business and be able to stay at home and take care of her children if that's what she chooses to do? What's wrong with that? Why is that an attack against femininity? It doesn't make sense. But so anyway, so when we go back to this, right, we're seeing how important the man is. There were mist had to come up from the ground because there was no man who had been given specific authority to do what? To make sure that growth happened. Which means that if there's no man, there is no growth. If there is no man, there is no rain. Matter of fact, when you look at it, disobedient men, yeah, my wife talks, yeah, population control, a BIF, right? Right. So disobedient men is the reason why in what you call the Old Testament, disobedience from men is the reason why it didn't rain. Did y'all know that? Elijah would say, "Because you have not been obedient, it will not rain." He didn't pray about it. Because you've been disobedient, because you haven't been who you're called to be, it's going to rain. I mean, it will not rain. What opened the floodgates, so to speak, for rain to happen in the first place? Disobedience. Didn't need to rain. But you got giants and Nephilim and angels who are possessing people, the watchers, and all these different things. You got all this stuff going on. Like the reason rain is centered around disobedience. The earth needs rain now because you're disobedient and nobody's telling it. So since nobody's telling it, it needs to rain. There's no need for rain because you got all the water that you'll ever need, right? All around you. If you dig deep enough in the earth, wherever you are listening, 99.9% of the time, you will find water somewhere. I don't care if you're in the desert. Go to a cactus, open it up. You will find water somewhere, right? I don't care if it hasn't rained in the tropical environment. Go get you a coconut, open that thing up, and you will find water in there. There's water in everything. If you can't find stuff or whatever, eat some fruit, right? And when it's juicy, guess what? Part of that juice, you call it juice, but the juice is mixed. It's the fruit mixed with what? The water. Heck, you can go to the beach today. If you were stranded at a beach If you were stranded on the island and you had no way to be able to get water, right? Before you found water on there, if you felt like you didn't want to go, or if you felt it was too small to get water, there was no water source on that island, you know what you could do? You could legit, if you had some plastic, you could find a way to weight that plastic down, put it, make a few holes in the sand all over the place, keep putting plastic, covering the plastic all over the place. And guess what? After amount of hours or the next day, every day from that point on, you would be able to see what? You'd be able to see water everywhere you go, right? There'd be water, and it wouldn't be salt water. It would be water, right? That's the mem, the water, the blood, and the spirit. That's part of his title, Alacham, right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and the hand leads us to the mem. The mem is the water, the blood, and the spirit. Your blood, your body is made up of what? Some people say up to 80%. Most people would settle for about 70-something percent of what? Of water. Water is everything. Water, blood, and spirit. There was no man to till the ground. So since there was nobody who had water, blood, and spirit on this level in him, there was nobody who could cause growth. So when we are disobedient as men, when we're disobedient, there is no growth. Yeah, use power of capture and evaporation to clean water. Exactly. Right. But when we are disobedient, there is no growth. I see you over there. Yeah, I felt that one. Right. There is no growth. So we need to start teaching these people. How you doing, Sister Marion? Shabbat shalom to you. Shabbat shalom to everybody, by the way, on all the platforms. Thank you so much for being on. So there is zero growth going on. We feel like there's no growth in our community. Our sisters are saying they don't feel secure. Guess what? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Stop talking about that you need the respect, but you ain't giving no security. Stop saying you need the respect, but where is your affection? Stop saying you need the respect, but where are your businesses? Stop saying you need the respect, but where's your land? Not just by yourself. See, it's not good. It's not constitutional. It's not viable for men to be alone, all in one. We're going to talk about that tomorrow more, so I don't want to harp on that, right? Today, we're going to be focused on men. We focused on the sisters last night, just in case somebody's like, this is unfair. He's just talking about men. We talked about the sisters last night. Y'all, the sisters asked a question, and we got on them a little bit, right? We're going to get on us today, right? I didn't even mean to go into the sisters last night, but they opened up that box. So we made sure we got all of that out of that gift that they presented, right? How you doing, Shara? Right? And Shabbat Shalom once again to everybody. Right. But when you're sitting there and you're dealing with this man, right, is important. He's missing. So since he's missing, there is no rain, but there's a mist. Right? There is no rain, but there is a mist. Okay, cool. So we got that part then, right? We've got the part that there is no rain, right? There is no rain yet. Right? There is no rain. So there's a mist. All these movies you see, oh, this is prehistoric. This is before man could even exist, right? Well, technically, you're right. Now, there was mankind, generation, but there's not a specific man for growth to give growth, generation, right? In a specific area, too, right? Because the Garden of Eden, we showed you yesterday, there's a difference between what? There's a difference between, we showed you, right? At this time, because you guys think this map, and even though this is a bad projection, you guys think this map when you think the earth, right? So you say, well, the Garden of Eden, the river could be here, and the river could be here, the river could be here. But remember, we talked about that extensively the last couple of days, and we've made sure that we showed it, like, hey, the earth looked different. Africa looks different. Australia's in a different place. Madagascar's in a different place. India's in a different place. What we call Babylon is in a different place. Iran, Iraq, places like that. So when you're talking about these places, you got to say, oh, they were connected. So these rivers look a lot different. So a lot of us, when we're thinking about these rivers and these places, we're like, we hear these river names and these titles, and we're trying to place them in different places, but put them the way they're supposed to do and bring them together, right? And now we realize what you call Pangea is something the Bible never had a problem with. And the Bible even tells you in Genesis chapter 10, when it went from Pangea to this, if you know what the name Peleg means, it tells you the generations after the flood. That word generation and generations is powerful. When you start knowing your culture, you start reading this thing better. You start reading it correctly. You stop going into what you want and you start seeing contextual facts. Okay? So in all these things that we're talking about, and all these things that we're going through, and all these things that we're doing, let's go to this place of where it's talking about man, right? So this man, how important is he? Well, it wasn't even raining. It says a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads, right? So we just talked about some of that. We can, you know, that's more research for you guys, but hopefully I gave you a little hint to be able to help with that. How you doing, Southern Core? Appreciate you, right? So hopefully we gave you something you can research on your own. But we're short on time for today. We got to get ready to make sure that we're ready for the live at 10. All right. So, or I'm sorry, the podcast at 10. Excuse me. So it says what? Yahweh Elohim, I'm sorry, verse 15. So we talked about the deformed man, right? He had already formed man. We talked about that. Formed is different than made, right? To make or to build or to shape something is different than the forming. He built Eve. He shaped Eve. He made Eve. So when he made Eve, he shaped Eve. He built her. She's built, right? That's why that song said she's a brick house, right? She's mighty, mighty, letting it all hang out. That means she built, right? That's an older school term, right? You know, old school cats, y'all know what I'm talking about. They used to say she built, right? When y'all say she got that frame, what's a frame? A frame is built, right? A frame just ain't out there. A frame is built. So when you say look at that frame, that Coke bottle frame, even a Coke bottle frame still has to be built. So she was built. There was material already there, but Adam, the man, he was formed. There was no material. He's the foundation. The Commodores, right? Yeah, most definitely, right? She's built, but he's formed. He was formed. That's why he ain't got no shape like that, right? That's why y'all ain't attracted to brothers with, you know, booties that be hanging out and big hips and stuff like that. And when we have problems with our chest area, our breast area and stuff, and it be looking like yours, you start having a little bit of issue with it. I'm not saying some of y'all don't like a little something to hug on to, but let's be honest, you know, certain things aren't as attractive on us as it's attractive on you. Why? Because he's not supposed to be built, he's supposed to be formed. Real talk, right? Let's not act like you know, I keep telling y'all, let's be real with each other. That's the problem that we have, is that we ain't real. Oh, okay, no problem. Yesterday, I'm sorry I missed you. Right? But he was what? He was formed, but you was built. See the difference? Right? So we'll talk more even about that tomorrow and how the two need to become one. But we are formed. You are built. Okay? So now it says what? Yahweh Elohim took the man. So he took this creation that he formed, the material that he put this material together. He created it, right, from scratch. And he basically said, or well, not from scratch at this point, but from the earth. There was nothing. There was mankind, but there was no man that looks like this particular man, right? And what did he do? He said, and he put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it. So he was made outside of the garden. He was made in Eden, but there's a Garden of Eden, right? Did y'all catch that? See, we do this thing where he was made in the wilderness, and wilderness we think means that it was just destitute of life and all that stuff. But no, he was in Eden, but then he needed to be put in the Garden of Eden, right? So man is different than woman, even in the way that we act, because woman, she was built in the garden. We'll talk about that some tomorrow, right? But I want y'all to catch this, right? She was built in the garden. You were made outside the garden and placed in it. Now, isn't it amazing? I need y'all to catch this because a lot of people don't know this about themselves. Everybody's always like, well, I never went to school for this. I never went to school for that. I never was taught this. I never was taught that. I can't be somebody to teach. I can't be somebody to reach somebody. You always condemning yourself. That's why we had those affirmations. Romans 8:1 is very important in those affirmations, right? But I can't do this. I don't want to do this. You know, I feel like they're always condemning yourself because everybody else condemns you, right? And what you're really saying to yourself a lot of times is you feel like an outsider. I wasn't made inside this position. I didn't get this money. I wasn't taught this. I didn't have this growing up. I wasn't raised with a silver spoon in my house, yada, 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 right? Here's the deal. No, you were not raised with all those things. You were not. But it doesn't mean that you can't do what you were called to do. Adam was not made in the garden, but it's because he was made outside of it, he could see the perspective. That's why men, according to Proverbs 1:3, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8, read your Bible, it'll bless you. Men give direction, women lay down the law. Women look for men with direction. You know why women like bad boys? Women like bad boys because bad boys don't follow what they say. And a lot of them are immature where they like bad boys. So they conflate, he won't follow what I say, so he must have another direction. When the reality is he's just directionless at that moment. But that's why they like the bad boys. They like the bad boys because in their mind, hey, I need direction. I guess he gives direction because he ain't following mine, right? So he must have direction, right? What's one of the most common things that our sisters say? Man, I wish I could find a man that wanted to study his Bible. I wish I had a man that would pray with me. I wish I had a man that would make me feel secure. I wish I had a man that would give me a hug. Right? She's looking for direction. And direction causes her to feel secure. When she feels secure, she starts to lay down the law. She lays down the law based off of your direction. So if you get tired of your wife laying down the law, then you need to figure out if you got direction or if your direction is true or not. But the direction he gives is from a position because he came from outside. He came from outside. He came from outside. His direction he gives, it comes from outside. He was created outside the house. So he knows how to take care of the house because he knows what's outside. Thanks for the love. Appreciate it. Right? Hear what I'm saying? He came from outside the way things look. So he's not going to think like you. See, look, you grew up in the Barbie mentality or whatever the new doll is or whatever, right? Barbie still reigns supreme, I believe. But hey, whatever the doll is, the Polly Pockets, the Barbies, the I don't think Kid Sister really counts in this because it was a little girl, but you know, whatever. Some of y'all was treating Cabbage Patch Kids like they were adults, whatever. But that Barbie mentality, look, Barbie had her own house. Barbie had her own clothes. Barbie had her own job. Barbie had her own car. Barbie had her own getaway place. Barbie had her own horse, right? I grew up with a sister. I understand, right? Barbie had all those different things. And Barbie, for the most part, even if she was colored black, she ain't look like you. But a lot of times y'all didn't want the black one anyways. You wanted the white ones, right? Some of y'all were multifaceted. You had all the different ones, but you know, whatever, right? But Barbie also had another accessory. All these were accessories. She had her own comb, right? She had all this stuff, but she also had another accessory. As a matter of fact, some of y'all ordered some of her accessories human size so that you could wear what your Barbie was wearing. But there was another accessory that she had. His name was Ken. And Ken always obeyed whatever Barbie said. And if Ken drove, right, he was driving Barbie's car. And if Ken was in a house, he lived in Barbie's house. And if Ken spoke, he spoke what Barbie wanted to hear. That's why Barbie and Ken really ain't had no arguments like that. Right? Unless you were basing them on what you were hearing from your mom and your dad. Barbie and Ken ain't really beef like that. Whatever Barbie wanted, Ken was going to give because Ken automatically knew the thoughts of Barbie, right, in your head. But then you go ahead and you meet a real man and he's masculine. Now, this is toxic. People will say this is toxic masculine, but you read a real man and he doesn't automatically do what you say because he was born outside the house. He wasn't an accessory. That's why you love your father and honor your fathers, but you won't honor your husband, right? Right? Because your father, you never put in the mind of Ken, because even though your father was loving and everything, he also gave you a perspective that was outside of Barbie's realm, right? But you expect your husband to go into Barbie's house and to be Ken. That's not how it works. That's not how it operates. He gives direction. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. He gives direction. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8, he gives direction, and then wives take it and lay down the law. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow, right? But hold on to that. That's important. And it says that after he made Adam, check this out. After he made the man, it said, and then he made the garden, placed the man from the outside perspective into this garden that now Havach, or who we now call Eve, is going to live inside him. Guess what happens here? It says, then Yahweh Elohim took this man and put him into the Garden of Eden to do what? To dress it and to keep it. When you're looking for your husband, when's the last time you look for a husband that has a garden, right, so to speak, that has an environment that he's over, and he dresses it and he keeps it? Is that even on your list of things you look for? Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate the love. I've never seen that one before. That's a nice one, Katie. Thank you. Right? When's the last time that you've seen that before? Brothers and sisters, when's the last time that you've seen, how you doing, Lila? When's the last time that you've seen that you had on your list. I'm looking for a man who has a garden. Now, it's a garden of Eden. Guess what garden means? Garden is not just a place to where you put flowers. Garden also is a gated off place. So he has a secure place, number one. It doesn't mean he has a rich place. He has a secure place. You're going to need security. He needs to make sure he got something that's secure just for you, a mindset that's secure just for you, a heart that's secure just for you, a business that's secure just for you, an idea of fatherhood that's secure just for you and your babies. Right? That's not even on your list. That's not even top 10 sometimes. Right? But it's a garden. And then the word Eden, it means delightful. It means a place. It means the presence of the Most High. It means heaven. And it also is a place that you should dominate in. Right? Yahweh said, I'm going to make man, but I'm not finished with them yet. So you think he's finished when he started breathing. But he said, I'm not finished with them yet. I need to pick him up and put him in this place that he can have a guarded place, secure it, keep it, right? Dress it, make sure it has everything that's necessary. He can care for it. Now, in Hebrew and in Greek, the word care means a lot different than what we think it does. See, we're in somebody else's culture. We're in the land of our captivity, and we're captivated by people that want us to remain captivated. Right? Hopefully you got what I just said, right? But you're captivated by people that want you to remain captivated. In order to be free, you must take a man and you must take him out of this wild, wicked stuff, and you must put him in a position to where he will be in his work. He will be in his work, not in his job where he got to toil, but in his work. See, the work is where you rest. See, we're still in Shabbat when all this stuff is happening. We're still in rest. This is not labor. This is rest. This is work. I could do this all day if y'all let me. If we ain't had no podcast, if I didn't have a family, if I was just out here by myself doing what I do, I promise you, I couldn't, because my wife is what has lifted me up to this position. But just let's just say, for some reason, because a lot of y'all think that you're self-made. So if I was just in some position where I could do this or whatever, I could do this all day, every day if I wanted. I love this. I could do this 10 hours a day, no lie, no cap. I could just, because I do it even behind the scenes. Once we finish these, I still talking. I'm still calling people. I'm still emailing. I'm still trying to come up with stuff. I'm still trying to do things or whatever, right? Shabbat shalom, Sister Carrie. Like, I'm still doing these things, right? Because I'm in my work. My work don't feel like toil, right? When I went out and not toiled, I got hernias, right? When I work, I could do this all day because I'm called to this. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all get in front of that stove. You could be in front of the stove all day and not even think twice about it. It's just what you do. Why? Because you love cooking. That's your work. That's how you show love. You can't wait for somebody to say, girl, you put your foot in that, right? It's your work. You get excited about it. Even when you ain't making the money that everybody says you should be making, you don't care. I was doing this when I was homeless. My work is different than my toil. So the problem is, sisters, when you find a man, see, that this is why we're talking about that toxic masculinity earlier, right? By the way, right, like, you got to find a man in his work. By the way, then it says Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of what you think is constitutional, right, or good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that you eatest of it, thou shalt surely die. There was law, there was death. Now, death had no power because he was going to be obedient to the law. The second the man was disobedient to the law, all of a sudden here comes death. A man being disobedient to law is akin to a man dying, right? If you take a bird, if you take an eagle, even though it might be able to dive somewhat, but if you take an eagle and you try to put it 200 feet beneath the ocean surface, it will die. Right? If you try to take a fish and put it in an eagle's nest, it will die. Right? If you try to take a polar bear, and put it in, if you try to take a polar bear and put it in the Sahara Desert, it will die. If you try to take a camel and you try to place it in Alaska, it will die. If you try to take a man and you put him outside of his work, he will malfunction and he will die. Props to Dr. Miles Monroe for leading me down that path, right? And learning from him of those things. That's real, right? If you take a fish out of water and you put it in an eagle's nest, it will malfunction and die because it is designed for a specific place. It has a specific work. It has a specific way it breathes. It breathes through its gills. It's getting oxygen, but it can't breathe without having water go over his gills. So there's somebody who's fished, right? When you fish and stuff like that, and you see the fish that are there, the fish will hang in there as long as they can, but they have to have a certain amount of water going over their gills. And especially if you do really well on your fishing and you start putting them in the bucket and everything like that, and too many of them getting in there, guess what? They eventually start dying off. They start having problems. Why? Because they got to move a certain amount, and they also got to have enough space to be able to get enough water going over those gills, right? If it's stagnant, they can't really do what they need to do. But we've taken men and we've put them outside of their environment, and they've now malfunctioned, and now they're dying. And guess what? If they're dying, guess who else is dying? The people they're supposed to secure, the community they're supposed to secure. Hallelujah. How you doing, Brother Elijah? That's real. That's real talk. All right, we're struggling to survive because we have men that have been taken out of their environment. They don't even have an environment. Thanks, babe. They don't even have an environment. Malfunctioning and dying. You call it toxic masculinity, but is a malfunctioned man really a man? If you have a phone that's malfunctioning, right? Do you say, oh man, all phones terrible? Or do you say, man, I need to get my phone fixed because it's not operating its original capacity? That's why we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against kingdom origins, principalities. Y'all seeing this? This is why we repeat this stuff, and y'all get mad, and people get mad when we say it. You're dealing with a malfunctioning man. If you have a malfunctioning phone, you would send it to the company hoping that you get a phone that works, because you're not going to say that every phone is supposed to work like your malfunction. You think that every man works like your malfunction. This answers a little bit what we were talking about yesterday. Remember? Oh, well, I don't know how to do this and that or whatever. And we came to a place, the Holy Spirit brought us to a place where we had to say, hey, like she was showing us a lot of our problem that we have with men is because women have not been trained how to be wives. Men have not been trained how to be husbands. You got together, started having sex, started having these relationships, going out on dates, doing all these things that don't even make sense, let alone are not even biblically. And so now you think that the malfunctioning man is the man, but that's the malfunction. You need to send him back to the factory, or just not mess with it until you can afford, or until he can afford, or until both of you are valuable enough, or both of you are in your calling enough to warrant, right? You come with a warranty to warrant what? Making sure that you can come together and live together till death do you part. If you're not ready for all that, then of course, so your whole thought of governance concerning men, concerning marriage, concerning relationships comes from a malfunction, because you have a man that's not in his nature, right? You have a man, and I know I'm doing a play on words here, but you have a man that's not in the midst of what he's supposed to be. You have a man that's not in the midst of what he's supposed to be. It's raining down all over you because your man is disobedient. And it looks beautiful in the rain, but you, after a while, you ain't trying to get rained on for 5 years, right? Give me some reprieve from being rained on. You haven't found a man that's in the midst. You haven't found a man that's in the environment. Hallelujah. Right? Did y'all catch that? He was outside of the environment. He was created. He was formed, right? You're going to be built out of what's formed, but a wife is going to be built out of what's formed, right? And so, and the wife, that's why the wife can build. See, it's not great for us. We'll talk about this tomorrow, but it's not great for a man to be what? Alone, to be all one. It's a compound word for him to be all one or all in one, right? So he can't build by himself. So therefore it's not a great thing for him to be all one. So he was created all one, or he was formed rather. Yeah, he was created, formed all one, right? But then later on, he's going to be put in the garden, be given a work. And once he's in his work, now he can rest, and out of him can be something that's just as valuable as him to help him to build. He has the ability to build, but he ain't really going to build but so much by himself. But put him with the help me, and now he can build. It's not great that he be all one. Look for somebody who builds. So you think I need a man who builds. No, look for a man that dresses and keeps, and that's in his work. And when he dresses and keeps and in his work and presents himself to you and says, I'd like for you to be my wife. Not that you're not already a wife. You should be already qualified, because you should be your husband's wife. But when he shows up, when that real husband shows up, then he should show up with a work. Right? Stop looking for him to be rich. Look for him to have a work. Stop looking for him to be able to speak in tongues and he ain't got no work. I'm not saying you can't speak in tongues, but if that's all it is, oh, well, he's speaking tongues. He run around the church. He can dance like I can dance all day and for the Lord, but he ain't got no work. A man in his work is a man that's out of his environment. Yahweh said, I can't just let Eden, I could just let Adam live in Eden and that be the end of it. And he'd be fine. He could live forever like that, but he would have no growth. And I created him because there's no growth on the land. That's why there was a mist that would go out in the midst, right? And that's why there was because there was no rain. If it's going to rain, then somebody's got to be there to make sure that they're there to make sure that they're tilling the land. Well, guess what? There's no man that I trust right now that I can go ahead and make that thing rain, right? So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for that. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we till, rather than tilling the land and having all that. I'll just go ahead and make sure there's a mist, right? And a mist that comes up and can make sure that it's there. But even with the mist, I still want some growth. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this Adam, right? Out of Adamah, right? Adam out of Adamah. So some of you know the Hebrew culture, the Hebrew language I'm speaking of. And I'm going to take him and I'm going to go ahead and take him out of a place where he has no work. He's created, but he has no work. He could live, but he has no work. He's not the greatest version of himself. He can't be a reflection of me. He can't even be married to me because he's supposed to be my wife, right? But he can't be married to me. Why? Because he has no work. He has no value, right? He can live forever, but it's not, or put it this way, it's not living in his proper value. Let me take him from that and put him in a place where he has a work, where he has to secure it, where he has to be in my presence, where he has to walk. A man that is not outside, that a man outside of Elohim's presence, he malfunctions and dies every time. A man that cheats is a man that's out of Elohim's presence. Even if he didn't mean to. Y'all be like, how you not mean to cheat, blah, blah. He ain't mean to cheat. He was listening to some sister. He shouldn't have been there. He was at his job too late. Next thing you know, 80-20 thing happens. Maybe the wife hasn't been saying something. Maybe they've been beefing. Some girls say, yeah, you looking cute in that shirt over there. She wasn't even trying to say anything originally, but then he reacted and she liked the reaction. Next thing you know, right? When the reality is you should have been gone from work, from your job. You should have been making sure you was talking to your wife. As soon as she said, hey, that shirt looks cute, you should have said, thank you. My wife thinks so. Or you should have ignored it and been rude. It don't matter because that's not your wife. And you should have gone straight to your wife. But because you stuck around outside of Eden too long and you didn't make sure that you were in your work, right? And you malfunctioned. A phone doesn't stop working on purpose. A phone stops working because it malfunctions. You got to make sure that you don't malfunction. You say, LOL, I'm sitting there judging situations that haven't even occurred. LOL, Christians are funny. Well, I'm not a Christian. Secondly, make sure you actually talk about what I'm talking about. Right? I don't even know what that is. But right, like you gotta realize they malfunction. Right? You malfunction when you're not in proper usage. It doesn't mean that you don't have his image, right? An iPhone has a bitten apple on it, which in that and of itself is kind of weird, right? But nevertheless, an iPhone has a bitten apple on it. Right? When you see that apple, you know who that belongs to, what it does, what you've heard about it. It's supposed to be this thing is better than everybody else, whether you believe it is or not, but you know what it's supposed to do. It even solicits nostalgia for some people. It makes some people think of Steve Jobs. It makes some people think they could be the next Steve Jobs. It makes people think of whatever, right? It has an imprint on it, but it doesn't mean it can't malfunction. Right? If you take that phone, the phone didn't ask to be put in a certain environment. But if I take that phone, if I take my MacBook, I got to get it fixed still. But if I take that MacBook, right, and I accidentally put it in the wrong place, I didn't mean to. Matter of fact, I don't even remember being the one to do it. But let's say I'm the one that did it. I put it in the wrong place. Next thing I know, I came back. There was water all over it. Don't even know really what happened. Right? It malfunctioned. So because of that, it's not able to do what it was called to do. So I'm going to have to I'm going to have to take it to a place specifically, right, to make sure, hey, can y'all make sure that y'all fix this, do this, or whatever. I'm gonna make sure I have to go, then should have been smart, right? Had to get smartened up, right? But got to get smart. Okay, I got to go and make sure I get some kind of box or some kind of case and make sure whenever I'm not using it, it's just going to have to stay in that case. I'm going to have to keep it in the right environment, right? Because keeping it in the wrong environment, even though I didn't mean for anything to happen, right? My wife was always warning me, hey, you always doing this. You always putting this here. You always putting this there. Why don't you take care of this? Why don't you do this? It's disrespectful, And I was like, I'm not being disrespectful because in my mind, I'm not trying to do this on purpose. Like, why is she yelling at me? I'm not trying to do this on purpose. But she saw that it was not in the right environment. Next thing you know, because it's not in the right environment, all it took was one time something to happen. And that wrong environment caused malfunction. One time, right? One time, it just took malfunction or malfunction. One time. That's it. All it takes is one time. Find a man outside of his work, and you will find a man that's this close to malfunction. Sisters, don't worry about. Look, I'm not trying to say I'm all up because I didn't know. I should have been better prepared financially and stuff, right? When my wife and I met, right? But my wife didn't meet me and didn't expect me. By the way, eventually she expected me to make sure. She told me from the beginning, at some point, you're going to be the breadwinner, right? Like you're going to make sure that I can be rested, secure, and all these different things. But when she met me, I wasn't there. But you know what? She met me in. When she met me, I was in my work. When she met me, the first conversation she heard before we talked, she overheard conversation I was having in my work, getting ready to visit somebody in a medical facility. What we call an insane asylum type thing, right? Our first going out together was to go to visit that person together. We met in my work, right? I was waiting for the bus. While doing that, I was waiting for the bus to go to rehearsal to make sure that we could bless the people of Yah. I was in my work. You know what I'm saying? Like she met me in my work. So bare minimum, right? If anything. And even she said the way I presented myself and she said the way that I looked or whatever, even the clothing I was wearing, I was going to work. I didn't take days off of my work. You can take a day off your job, but you can't take a day off your work. She found me in my work. And so she trusted it. And it was not easy. Let's keep it 100. And by the way, it wasn't just not easy because I had to learn as part of the work. It's okay for people to bless you. It's okay for people to give you stuff. She had to even work with me and be patient and speak those things over. And sometimes outright just speak it like, yo, you need to make sure and taking care of everybody else that your family taking care of, Negro. I had to learn some things. I was a work in progress, but I was always a work in progress because I was progressing in my work. That's a bar right there. I like that. I was always a work in progress because I was always progressing in my work. Right. And so since I'm very well suited for my work, I kept putting in work for my work because I kept putting time and talent and effort in for my work. He said, stop telling them. I'm just saying, like, I'm saying that, I won't go further than what I'm saying now, but I'm just saying, like I couldn't accept people. Hey, I'd like to bless you with this or this and that, but I'm working for everybody else and everybody else is getting me and I'm tired, but my family can't have me and all these different things. Right. But I began to progress in my work. Right. Because I was always about my work. But I'll leave it there. Right. I'll be obedient. But I'm trying to tell you, a man outside of his work, if somebody's dead. So watch this, sisters. Watch this, sisters. If you find a real husband, if you get a real one, be a helpmeet and help him meet his work. You know why? Because it opens up the door, it opens up the gate, it opens up the garden, and it allows you to do what? The same thing he's doing, you get to do it too. So now you in your work. You dress and you keep what you do. Right? In your work. So what if you married a man that wasn't ready to be a husband? Well, in all honesty, that shows that both of you weren't ready because a wife would never accept anything less than a husband. So you probably both weren't trained in some things. Maybe you've gotten better in some things and you're looking for him to become better. But the Bible declares to us that it's going to be the behavior of the unbelieving spouse that will help the spouse, whether it be husband or wife. But there's some things that you need to make sure you're purified, make sure you're sanctified, and make sure that you are as obedient as possible, right, to a mission. This is what we always try to tell people, right? This will be something that helps your husband. Ask him what his mission is. Because some men have never been told how important that is, but that's part of your work. What are you dressing? What are you keeping? When he addresses you, does he address you out of a mission? Or does he address you out? See, like sometimes y'all think that he just yelling or whatever. Sometimes he yelling because he's like, yo, like the mission is falling apart. Sometimes he yelling no because he ain't got no mission. Or he's far away from it. Sometimes you have to remind him, like, what you yelling about? Like, isn't this the mission? Isn't this the goal? You got to get us on track, right? That's why we need helpmeets. But help him Ask him what a mission is. A lot of us, once again, we think it's submansion or even subwomanship. Submit to the person. Don't submit to the person. Submit to the mission. It can't just be see. This is the lie from the pit of hell, and we got to do this real quick because we got to get ready for the podcast at 10. Right, we still gonna be on time to support Minister Sonia, amen. And the Shabbat Shalom podcast and the Shabbat Shalom service we have on the podcast. Hear what I say. Hear what I say. A lot of us have been lied to. We think that hey, we're going to be happy because we're coming together with somebody, and they're just going to be about us, and we're just going to be about them, and we'll have some children together that'll bind us together, and then the children will leave, and everything will just be perfect because it's two people that are imperfect that are going to become perfect together. And the reality is that you're signing up for somebody who has a mission, right? If you're a wife marrying a husband, you're signing up for somebody who has a mission that is perfect, yet he himself is imperfect. Because if he was perfect, it would be great for him to be alone, to be all one. That's what that word alone means. Once again, all one or all in one. So he's imperfect, but he has a perfect mission. And so I have a perfect mission, but I'm imperfect. I'm incomplete. And I lost you out of me that completes me. So I'm pining and looking for somebody like you to help me to get to the mission. You're going to be dealing with an imperfect brother, but he's got a perfect mission. You're dealing with an imperfect brother, but he has a perfect mission. And you're coming to be one with him. And now, even though he's been pining for you and wanting you, see, a lot of you didn't marry husbands. A lot of you didn't marry people that were trained to be husbands. I wasn't trained fully to be a husband myself, even though I think I was probably better suited than many when my wife and I got together. But still, I wasn't fully trained. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm still learning, right? But she didn't marry a fully formed human being because I can't even be fully formed until I'm married. She didn't marry a fully formed human because I wasn't fully formed. I can't be fully formed. So now I'm forming with her, right? I was formed, right? Remember when Adam, when he was formed, he was all one. Everything was in him. But it was not great that it was not constitutional that it stopped there and all things be in one person. So in order for him to be fruitful and multiply and replenish and subdue, he had to what? Be in his work, rest in it enough to where now out of his work, literally for him, for figuratively for us, but literally for Adam, out of his work comes Chava, or who we call Eve. And we'll talk about what he said to Eve and talk about the parameters of that tomorrow when we go into our deep dive on Sundays that we usually go into, right? But out of his work came Eve. He was so when he goes into his work, he's realizing that I can't be all one, so I'm not fully formed. I'm not fully formed doesn't mean everything's inside one person. Fully formed just means that I need a help me. What did he do? He named the animals, right? He named the animals. He looked around all the animals and he said, everything that I've named so far, all of them have a help me. He said, see, you have everything in you, but it's not great to just be by yourself, is it? He said, so rest inside of who you really should be, which is two becoming one. Don't be alone. Don't be all one. Rest. And I'm going to go inside and I'm going to pull out Wound Man, Ashach, Amah, and I'm going to put it together with Abba, Amma come together. And now we can start talking about what you really are. Now you can see yourself in your child. Now you can see yourself as far as going into the world. Now you can go and see yourself as far as being fully, not just fully formed, but being fully formed while multiplying. You can be all one, be formed, have a lot of stuff in you and still be like, but I'm not what I'm supposed to be. So the mission, the man, watch this. Here's something that a lot of women don't even comprehend, how much he loves you. I wish we had more time because now we got people coming on. We're going to be obedient, right? Check us out tomorrow. We're going to pop on the same TikTok channel. We're going to make sure on the same YouTube channel. We're going to make sure we pop back up and go right back into this, right? And if you have questions, Q&A, we can even do a little Q&A tomorrow, right? Sundays, we run a little long because we usually have a lot of people on Sundays, right? So we'll start right back where we are here today. But I need you to recognize, I need you to realize, I need you to get this in your spirit. Y'all ready? When a man, and this is the last thing, because for real, we got to get off of here to be ready for the podcast. When a man goes into his work, right, He's saying immediately, a man in his work knows at some point, I've got to have help. Adam named all the animals, and his work even informed him, I gotta have help, right? Because he had free will. So it wasn't until he by his will said, man, I'm the only thing out here that doesn't have a helpmeet. Then Yahweh was like, see, you got it. Now keep on resting. And I'm gonna go ahead and present to you how it works. And so now I'm not just growing, right? I'm not just trying to build and stuff, but I'm building. Somebody else is building while I'm focused on what? I'm focused on vision. I'm focused on security. I'm focused on keeping it. I'm focused on dressing it. I'm focused on making sure that I name and give authority, but I can't do it without a builder. I was trying to do everything within myself, but I'm driving myself crazy. I have to have somebody that builds with me and somebody that helps me. And when she does that, then I got to secure her dreams and I got to secure her visions. That's why I say this all the time. Y'all be laughing when I say it, but it's real talk. That's why a man can have a busted up car, a busted down vehicle, and will still be out there making sure that he's washing it and vacuuming it and doing all that. Why? Because that vehicle submits to the mission. And because it submits to the mission, I don't care if everybody else says you busted up. I'm going to take care of you because I love you because you submit to me. Now, the vehicle has no free will, right? However, the man still comprehends and he understands I must take care of what submits to the mission, not what submits to me, right? But what submits to the mission. I'm not asking for people to submit to me. I don't want a wife that's just a robot. I don't want somebody that never complains. I don't want somebody that can't bring up my faults. I need somebody to submit to the mission. So that means if you're going to say something that's making me a better man for the mission, I will listen every time. Even if I don't like what you have to say, even if I respond wrong in that moment, I promise you, give me a day or so, I'll come back and be like, you know what, you was right. If we're going to reach that level, I got to change. I got to be better. I got to be greater. I will want to be better just for you because part of my mission is to make sure that my helpmate, that my wife, the only person that's going to be on a level with me is going to feel more secure than anybody else, just because I will submit to, watch this, that's why the Bible says submit yourselves one to another before it tells wives to submit to the mission. It says submit yourselves one to another. I will submit to your mission because I know your mission is to make sure that my mission comes into fruition. So therefore, what's your mission, baby? What do you want to do? What you want to be in charge of? How do you feel about brother so-and-so? How you feel about sister so-and-so? How you feel about so-and-so who's on the staff? How you feel about going to this place? Hey, I don't even want, when I go places, I don't even really want to go. I don't want to go unless my wife gonna be there. Because it's not part of the mission. She's so much part of the mission that if I'm going, even if she's not gonna be in front of the camera or whatever, if I'm going somewhere, hopefully she gonna be there. If I'm speaking in the hotel room, hopefully she's gonna be in the same hotel room. Right? That's my hope. That's my mission, to be one. I was saying this the other day. If you find a man that doesn't like PDA or public display of affection, that ain't no real man, that ain't no real husband. Because every husband wants everybody to see his wife. If you don't see his wife, it's 9 times out of 10, right? That's how some of these sisters be getting slick and be messing up people's relationships and stuff, right? Because 9 times out of 10, if she ain't there, it ain't because the husband said he ain't want her there. If the husband said he ain't want her there, he ain't a husband. He just a boy who out there trying to do some other stuff when she ain't there, or trying to say some stuff and hoping that she ain't gonna bust him out. Amen. Anyways, though, we're going this further tomorrow. Time for us to get out the way so we can make sure we're on time for the podcast. Hopefully you guys can come out and support Minister Sonia and her guest. And we're thankful and grateful to everybody who's been with us today. If you enjoyed what you saw, if you only saw a piece of it, whatever the case might be, you can check out the recordings. This is part 17. We'll be on for part 18 tomorrow, which should be the end of the series. If you got some questions, comments, concerns, or whatever, you can always make sure you bring them up tomorrow as well. Maybe we'll do Q&A on Monday. I'm not sure, but we'll do our best to answer some things. Obviously, tomorrow is the end of Genesis 2. So we'll kind of be talking about Adam and Eve, even more so than what we did today. And Eve will come more into the picture tomorrow. But we thank you. We thank you all for being on. Adam was always black. Look up the word Adamah. Adamah literally means dark, rich, nutrient earth. That's what Adam was made out of. Adam was made out of Adamah. Adamah literally is dark, rich, nutrient earth. And by the way, the further back you go into every culture, no matter where it is, the darker all of us become, correct? So if we all come from the same source and we all get darker as we go back, and dominance, even in science, tells you that dominance is dealing with the origin of something, and the origin always pops up. Even if every once in a while an outlier pops up, dominance is always going to be there. Then yeah, Adamah was in fact probably way darker than this. I did you a service. Matter of fact, he probably didn't have a nice haircut with a nice lineup either. So yeah, he was. Or whatever your definition of black is. Like, we use black to talk about many different things. I use it more so culturally than anything else. But yeah, I would say that he was probably way darker than me. Any day of the week, 7 times on Shabbat. Alrighty, but thank you, appreciate it. Yep. Cool. I don't know why you can't say hello when you're putting poop emojis, but maybe your life it deals with a lot of stuff that makes you feel like that. So we're praying for you. But thank you all for being on. We appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you, even if you're not living inside the kingdom of queendom yet. We appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. As always, please check out my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist. I apologize, babe. I think you said the tincture of the month was rest. Something to do with rest. I'm sorry if you're still on. If you can catch it before we close out, we got to get out of here though, so we can get onto the podcast. But she also has many different tinctures and natural medicines that she has been able to create from foraging and things of that nature. So it's fresh and everything for you. Please take time out to show love one to another. Thank you, everybody who showed love to people in the community or people who needed help yesterday on our first Friday, which is our mission. We're getting ready to go into the podcast. After the podcast, we'll have an SOC meeting. This one will probably be a lot more lighthearted than they've been. Okay, tincture of the month is I am rested. Okay, thank you. Amen. I am rested. So we thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Check out the tinctures, check out Bloom and Flourish, check out more things, check out the website, check out the podcast, check out the classes. By the way, we tried to make sure we send a mass email out. If you didn't get the link for some reason, we tried to send a mass email out. We like hopefully by Monday to be able to get you guys telling us what classes you're most interested in taking. And then from there, we will make sure that we have our classes, I believe, set up. Was it September the 18th or the 19th? Whichever one is that Monday. We'll start our classes for our 2-month sessions then before we take a last break for the year and then get ready to go into the 4th semester for the year, which will obviously go into next year. October's coming up. October 6th is my born day. So those who are interested in being part of the celebration, whatever that is, I'm not in charge of it, but whatever that's going to be, if you're interested, let us know as well. October 14th to the 16th, we're going to meet with everybody in Detroit. September 26th or the weekend thereof. So that's the 25th, 26th, 27th. We're looking at being in the Florida area, probably close around, not in, but around the area of Miami. So we'll give more information, especially offline. But as we get closer, we'll give you more information online. If you want more information about that and you want to know where to go, if you need to get a hotel, or if you just want to know what time to make sure you're available and what dates to make sure you're available, we'll give you all that info pretty soon as well. We thank you guys. We appreciate you. We look forward to talking to you very soon. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And in case I don't get to see you before 8 a.m. tomorrow for whatever reason, I want you, or even if I never see you again for some reason, I want you to remember as always, Yashta, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat shalom. Peace.